Alright guys, now that some time has passed since Phil Spencer did his interview on Kinda Funny Games, I wanted to do a video discussing my overall thoughts and what changes I think are going to be coming to the console space. I didn't want to do a video immediately after the interview and sort of have a knee-jerk reaction. I wanted to have time to collect my thoughts, put out a video that really focuses not only on Xbox, but at the console landscape as a whole, and discuss some major changes I think are coming our way. In this video, I want to talk about what direction these companies seem to be going in and how I think we should come to expect in the future from both Sony and Xbox. However, before we take a deep dive into this, I want to take a brief moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. I got a lot of stuff in the works that I love to share with you all. Also, if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. But anyways guys, we got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get into it. So to start the video off, I really want to focus on Xbox and Microsoft, since that's the more recent topic at hand. As I'm sure many of you have already seen the Phil Spencer interview with Kinda Funny Games, where he basically said this. And actually, I'm just going to play the clip. I know most of you have already seen it, but I'm going to play the clip because some time has passed, and that way we're all on the same page and we hear it from the horse's mouth.
I'll say this might be disruptive as well. We have a different vision. You know, Paris talked about this. It's play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want. We want Xbox to be something that people who buy our console can feel like they're a member of. Obviously, who are playing on PC, who are playing on cloud, that they feel like they're full members of our ecosystem. Gamepass players can play on many different devices, and we remain fully committed to that. We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. So what we have to do, and we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they're on. And the console is the core of the Xbox brand. There's no doubt. So like we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. But I know some people want to hold us up of just being a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say, like, there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Gamepass, with the stuff we do with Xcloud, and the way we build our games. Sorry.
So last week, my initial reaction to this was not a good one. I was basically, what is he talking about? It sounded absurd to me. It sounded like he was saying if they make great games, people will no longer buy an Xbox because they're already on the Sony platform. I know he mentioned Nintendo, but let's keep it real. Most gamers are not Nintendo only gamers. They have a Nintendo Switch in addition to another platform, whether it's PC, Xbox, or PlayStation. Most of the time, the Nintendo is on the side of their main console. And I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I don't think Microsoft wants the Xbox ecosystem to become a side addition to your PlayStation. I've seen people out there were saying that he missed the mark because if Xbox were to make great games, they would go out and buy an Xbox in addition to their PC or in addition to their Sony PlayStation. I don't think Microsoft wants the Xbox to become an additional platform. I think they want the Xbox ecosystem and Game Pass to be gamers' primary ecosystems. Now, he could have worded that a lot better, but I think he just realized, and I think a lot of people know it, the Xbox platform is never going to be the #1 console in the world. It's just not in the cards. Unless Sony shoots themselves in the foot like they did at the launch of the PS3. So technically, yes, they probably could get a leg up on Sony. However, if your strategy is waiting for your opponent to screw up because there's nothing you could do to beat them, that's not a good strategy. By changing the playing field and focusing on subscription like Game Pass and the cloud, Microsoft is creating their own gaming space. Think of it this way. They're still in the fight, but the person they're fighting on, they know that they can't match through raw strength and power. Sort of like if you were going to go against a UFC match versus someone else. Let's say they were just naturally stronger than you, and no matter how much you trained, you're never going to pass them in brute strength because it's not like they stopped training. They're still training. So you realize you have two options. You train for pure power and you hope that they get lazy so that when the match does come, you could simply overpower them. Or you mix it up and you start to focus on, hey, they're stronger than I am. What if I become faster and I focus on speed and endurance and maybe they won't be able to catch me in the fight? Or let's say they're one of the best strikers in the world and you know no matter what you do, you're not going to match their striking game. You cannot go toe to toe with them. So you switch it up. And your Game Pass is sort of like your grappling and your cloud gaming is your wrestling, and you try to take them to the ground to win the match. Because once you get them to the ground, their striking power starts to matter a lot less and it becomes a totally different ballpark. I think that's what Microsoft is doing. They're not dropping out of the race. They're just mixing it up. Now, whether we like that or not as gamers, we like the console. And he brought it up in the thing. We want to go back to every generation's a clean slate and we're just traditional console gamers. And I think those days, as sad as it is, are slowly going more and more behind us. So I wanted to shift the focus away from Xbox for a minute and focus on PlayStation. Now, I will say that Sony has done a better job at keeping the PlayStation brand more of a traditional console experience than what Microsoft has done with Xbox. I'm not saying it's better, I'm just saying it's more of a traditional console experience. And they have more of a traditional console approach. However, I see changes over there also that suggest that PlayStation is slowly going to start to be changing as well. For instance, their single player output is nowhere near what it used to be. They obviously beat Xbox with their gaming output. However, it's nothing that it was. Games just take longer and longer to make. And the fact that Jim Ryan has came out and said that they have 10 live service games in the works is not a good sign for me, because that's a lot of games. And you only have so many studios. You're not gonna have the manpower to constantly pump out all these single player experience and these live service games. And I'm gonna keep it real. Depending on which live service game takes off, that studio is going to turn into that's all they do. Look at Rockstar. Grand Theft Auto Online has basically consumed that company, that it takes forever for them to put out anything else. So imagine if Naughty Dog puts out an online Last of Us. It's going to take so much of that company's resources to maintain it. And even if they transition it to a different studio at PlayStation, it's going to be a major focus. Whether we like it as hardcore gamers or not, that's just what brings in the money. And the fact that they're focused on 10 different ones, that's a lot of development time and a lot of development cost that Sony's putting their money into instead of focusing on the single player experiences, which we all love. No matter how I wrap my head around it, I think the console market is just changing. I'm not saying it's gonna die. I'm not saying it's dying. It's just changing, and I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like Microsoft being more focused on a subscription service than the Xbox platform, or at least the hardware. I don't like that Sony's putting such a focus on live service games. Like, I miss the days where I would get all these really cool PlayStation single player experiences, but then I could mix in more of those little indie titles they'd pump out, like Alien Nation or Dead Nation. Now it seems they're only focused on the big blockbuster titles, and they're gonna throw live service into the mix. I guess that's cool, but I miss the old days. I'm basically firing from the hip here and just saying both PlayStation and Microsoft are changing, and I guess we just have to start asking ourselves, do we prefer more of the Microsoft approach, a play anywhere of Game Pass and subscription, or do we go the PlayStation approach where you get one really good exclusive, maybe two really good single player games a year? And I think it's going to slow down even further, and I think we're going to get more of them pumping out these multiplayer experiences that I truly hope are good. But like I said, once they get a hit with a live service game, that's going to take a lot of their focus, and that entire studio will just become, you know, the Last of Us multiplayer studio, or the Twisted Metal, if that's in the work, studio type of a thing. And we're not going to get sequels. We're just going to get, here you go, play this for the next 8 years, which honestly kind of sucks. So two things I want to bring up before I wrap up the video. The first one was, I know Phil Spencer sound kind of whiny in that Kind of Funny's game, and honestly he really does sound like he's waving the white flag at parts. However, it wasn't that long ago where Jim Ryan was out there saying if they lost Call of Duty, that PlayStation would not be able to compete. I'm waiting to see who's crying next in another month or two. I just think it's funny that both of these people that leave Xbox and PlayStation are out there whining. It's not a good look, and it's weird seeing both of these, high power successful men look so weak. Maybe it's a political ploy, but it's very off-putting. The second, this is simply my opinion and kind of speculation. I could be 100% wrong. In fact, I would love it if I'm wrong. I would love it if Sony is still pumping out high quality single player games, and they start pumping out more of those little traditional smaller games in between, instead of just focusing on live service. If they happen to do that and this video ages poorly, don't attack me in the comments, because that's what I want too. And I would be happy if Microsoft starts pumping out really high-end games and get people onto their platform, and they fully are committed to supporting the console hardware that they put out in addition to Game Pass and stuff, and Game Pass is not their major focus. However, I don't think I'm wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong on both of these accounts, but I would love to hear what you guys think. Do you like the direction that gaming seems to be going, especially when it concerns to Sony and Microsoft? Or are you like me and you kind of miss the days of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 era? Let me know in the comments down below. As for me, I got a ton of work to do, so I'm gonna get back to the grind, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.